Hey, what's up, everybody? My name is Brandon. Welcome back to another episode of the Book Report, my supposed to be weekly check-in. Sometimes it's semi-weekly check-in, where I come hang out, talk about books, what I've been reading, what I'm going to read next, all that kind of fun stuff. But I also want to hear from you in these videos, since it's just me talking. I want to hear from you in the comments about what you've been reading as well. And if I'm going to be honest, I'm kind of exhausted right now. It's Saturday. It's what, 5:43 on Saturday afternoon, going into evening. We had a birthday party earlier for my oldest and my youngest. One's going to be turning 10. One is going to be turning 5. Their birthdays are 2 days apart. So we had the birthday party today at the bowling alley. There was all kinds of kids running around, screaming. It was super hectic, and I'm kind of exhausted, kind of over it. But I didn't do a video last week, so it's been like 2 weeks since I came in here and talked, so I needed to get another video filmed. So I've got a few things to talk about. Try to get over the parental exhaustion of having all kinds of kids screaming and running around and trying to babysit and supervise kids as they're chucking bowling balls down the lane there. So let's see. I want to talk about, it's September now. I haven't talked yet about what I read in August, so we'll do that. My August reading wrap up. Read 4 books in August, had a pretty good reading month, so we'll go through these. These are in the order that I read them, but also the final book was my favorite book of the month. It just happened to turn out that way. So I read Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I thought this book was good. I did not love it as much as basically everyone else seems to just put this book up on a pedestal, have really high praise for it. I think my hand was out of frame there. But I thought it was good. For me, it was not great. Not anywhere near being great. I enjoyed the setup. I liked the beginning of the book, kind of the mystery about what's going on, the astrophage and what that is and what it's doing, and us trying to solve the mystery and trying to figure out how we can stop that. All that was great. I really liked that. It was the middle of the book, just kind of, I don't know if it started to drag for me necessarily, but it was not as exciting, and I wasn't as invested in the middle of the book as I was at the beginning of the book. And I think the reason for that is the characters were kind of flat for me, especially, what's his name, Ryland? Ryland Grace, our main character. For me, I just kind of felt like he was a bit one-dimensional. Wasn't fully invested in him as a character. I felt like he didn't have a ton going on. So the middle parts where it was slower, I don't mind slow books. I actually really like slow books, but it was slow and I wasn't interested in the character, so that kind of doubled down on the slowness, I guess you could say. But it was good. I would read more from Andy Weir. I did really like the ending. I like how it all wrapped up. I thought that was a great ending for the character and the storyline and what all was going on. It was just the middle part was slow for me, and I didn't love the characters. But I read Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I would read more from him. I would read The Martian, but this one was just good for me. Up next, I read, this was the Spinebreakers book club pick. That is the Spinebreakers book club pick for the third quarter, so we still have the rest of September if you want to join in and read it. This is King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby. This is my third Cosby read, and it's my least favorite of the 3. I loved Razorblade Tears and All the Sinners Bleed. This one also, like Project Hail Mary, I thought was good. I just didn't think it was great. The characters in here, kind of like with Project Hail Mary, I didn't really love the characters in here. The story's okay. Lots of violence and stuff. Our main character, I can't even remember his name. Roman, he has to come back home to Virginia because his dad has ended up in a coma after a car accident, and he has to come home and help out with that and try to help out with the family business, which is a crematorium, which was a cool setting. And his brother is also found himself in debt to some criminals, and so Roman has to come home and try to clean all this up as best he can. He's like a financial advisor in his day job, and it kind of turns into a Breaking Bad Walter White situation, where Roman kind of gets pulled into this criminal world and starts doing what he can to make the money back that is owed to these criminals from his brother and try to keep them away from his family and all that kind of stuff. Again, the story was okay. The characters were okay. This one was okay. It was good overall. I really like Cosby's other two books I've read a lot better. And there's a reveal in here. There's kind of a backstory mystery. Roman and his brother and sister, when they were younger, the mother disappeared. She just vanished one day. No one knows what happened to her. There was no body ever found. They don't know if she ran away, if she was murdered, whatever it is. But the suspicion around town is that maybe the dad killed her because she was cheating on him and burned her up in the crematorium. That's kind of the rumor around town, kind of like the local legend now. And we do kind of wrap that mystery up, and I wasn't the biggest fan of the conclusion to that mystery because of what it meant for certain characters. I didn't like how that played out. But this one was okay. Like I said, if you are interested in reading S.A. Cosby, I would highly recommend All the Sinners Bleed or Razorblade Tears over this one. This one was still good. You know, it's not bad by any means. This was King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby. Like I said, this is the Spinebackers book club pick, so if you'd like to read it and check out the thoughts, you can hop over onto the Discord and share what you thought about this book as well. And then I read The Summer That Melted Everything by Tiffany McDaniel. I've read her other book, Betty. I loved Betty. Betty's one of my all-time favorite books. It's beautiful writing, and it's just like a gut punch of a story. This was Tiffany's debut novel, and it's kind of like, what's the book called? I'm going to forget. To Kill a Mockingbird. I feel like this was kind of To Kill a Mockingbird inspired, kind of maybe a sort of a retelling of it in her own kind of way. It's set in Ohio, and our main character is a little boy. His dad is an attorney, and he got into law because he felt like he was doing God's justice as far as putting away the criminals, putting away the devil, the evil people. And he ends up writing this invitation and posting it in the newspaper, inviting the devil to town. The father does this. And then this boy shows up, this black kid shows up to town and proclaims that he is the devil that has come to answer this invitation. Of course, at first, no one believes him that he's actually the devil. He's just a kid. Maybe he's a runaway, whatever it is. But then incidents start to occur when he is around. People start to get hurt. Strange things start to happen. And slowly but surely, people actually start to believe and actually blame him, saying that he actually is the devil. And the story kind of goes on from there. This deals with themes of coming of age, of bigotry, racism, religion, things like that. The writing in here was beautiful, as everything I've read from her is very kind of poetic prose. The story was good. I didn't love the story as much as I did Betty. The story was good. It was a bit slow at times. It was a bit, what's the word? Not clunky. Clunky's not the right word, but it just didn't fire on all cylinders, the story as much as Betty did, but the writing here is beautiful. The story is good overall. It does make you angry and things like that, because all the hatred that's kind of thrown at this little child, calling him the devil and stuff, even though he said it himself, you don't really know. The way it's written, you don't really know if he actually maybe is the devil. Is he just a boy? So she did a good job kind of writing that fine line of, you don't really know which way it's going to fall, if he is or if he's not the devil. I did like that. This is The Summer That Melted Everything by Tiffany McDaniel. If you like beautiful writing, I highly suggest you check this one out. I love her writing. Definitely also check out Betty. Betty is amazing, and get your tissues ready if you read Betty. And then the final book I read, this was by far my favorite book of the month. This was Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Denneman. This book was so much fun. It was a blast. It's been a while since I've really read a bunch of fantasy, and this one just fired on all cylinders. It's like lit RPG is the genre it is, which I've never read any lit RPG before. But this is very much, if you are a fan of RPG video games like Skyrim or Elder Scrolls or Diablo or Borderlands, any of those kind of games, if you're a fan of Dungeons and Dragons, I highly recommend this book. I think you'll get a big kick out of it. I think you'll really enjoy it. Our main character, Carl, or the setup for this one is aliens invade Earth. Everyone who is inside a building or had a roof over the head, you're in a building, you're in a subway, you're in a car, you're instantly killed. And all the survivors are the people who are outside. And all the survivors have the option to enter this game, enter this dungeon game. And if you make it to the very last level of the dungeon, if you survive that, then you have the opportunity to become the ruler of the world. So millions of people flood into this dungeon and start this game. It's kind of very Hunger Games-ish at the beginning. And then, just kind of crazy, insane wackiness ensues from there. You're fighting goblins and all kinds of crazy creatures and have stats and cool weapons and everything. Carl goes in with his ex-girlfriend's cat named Princess Donut. And she gets magical abilities. And it's kind of a rip-roaring, fun, hilarious adventure. It was a blast. I definitely am going to be continuing this series. What is book 2 called? Book 2 is Carl's Doomsday Scenario. So I'm definitely going to be grabbing a copy of that. I'm going to probably wait and start that maybe November or December once kind of spooky season wraps up, because I definitely want to continue on with the series. It was just an absolute blast. Had a ton of fun with it. I love all the little stat blocks it has in here for the loot they get or achievements they unlock and stuff. It was really fun and funny and just all around good time. This is Dungeon Crawler Carl by Matt Denneman. This is one that did for me live up to the hype. It was a blast. So that is what I read in August. Like I said, had a pretty good month in August. Dungeon Crawler Carl was by far my favorite book of the month. It was just a ton of fun. So what have I been reading since then, since I spoke to you last? I did finally finish up on audiobook The Two Towers by Tolkien. I started that way at the beginning of the year and then took a break throughout the summer. Didn't really listen to it at all during the summer. Picked it back up a couple weeks ago once the kids started school back. Finally finished that. It was very good. I'm listening to the version that's narrated by Andy Serkis. He does an excellent job, not only with Gollum and his voice, Smeagol like he did in the movies, but everyone's voices. Frodo, Sam, all the different hobbits. He does an excellent job on the narration of that book. So that finally got that done. I did enjoy it. I still like the movies better. I know that's probably blasphemous to say, but the movies are really good, kind of nostalgic for them. But the audiobooks were really good as well. So I finished that up finally. And then I also finished up what I started last week, I think, week before last. I can't remember when I started it, but I finally finished up Educated by Tara Westover. I guess I should say Dr. Tara Westover. She's got her PhD. But this is a memoir, and as far as I can recall, this is the first memoir I've ever read. So I didn't really know what to expect going in as far as the writing. I feel like most people who write memoirs don't really write other books. They're just writing about, their own story. But the writing here was really well done. It felt like you were reading a fiction book. The prose was very fictionalized, if that makes sense. Just talking about her own life, but it flowed like you're reading a fiction story. It's really well done. And this book was, if I'm being honest, it was very frustrating at times, not because of the writing, but just her life and what she had to go through, what she had to deal with. I was like, oh my gosh. And it's easy to say that sitting here in my chair reading this book. She had a very traumatic childhood and abusive childhood, not only mental abuse, mostly from her father, the mental abuse from her mother too, but of physical abuse from one of her brothers. And it just, when that would happen, it seemed like, once she would go away to college, she kept coming back home, like for Christmas or Thanksgiving. And I just was like, just stay away. Don't keep going back. Don't keep putting yourself in that situation. Which again, it's easy for me to say that, This wasn't my life. I wasn't living that. That was not my family. You know, your family is a hard thing to, even though if you have a bunch of issues with them, it's still your family. It's a hard thing to kind of break away from, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. But man, anytime her father would have her go back and work in the junkyard, or her brother Sean would abuse her again, it was so frustrating to keep reading through that. Very kind of harrowing experience she had. Um, this is like a coming of age story about discovery, is kind of the best way I could put it. Not only discovering like who you are as a person, coming from a very, very like narrow minded upbringing, not really knowing anything about the outside world. So discovering about who you are as a person, but also discovering the broader world. You know, not only like an example is she was in college at BYU, and she read this word. She didn't know what this word was. So she asked the teacher what it was. She never heard of it. And the teacher thought it was a joke. It was the Holocaust. She never heard of the Holocaust as like a 16, 17-year-old kid. Like that's how narrow her scope on history and the world abroad was. She, as a 17-year-old kid, she'd never heard of the Holocaust before. So it's kind of, you know, the discovery of the greater world beyond, you know, the little Bucks Peak area in Idaho where she grew up with her family. This was excellent. Really, really, really good. I highly suggest you check it out. If you are into memoirs, definitely dug this one. This is Educated by Tara Westover. Very powerful, eye-opening read. Really, really dug that one. So I finished that one. And what am I currently reading? So I did start on audiobook Return of the King after I finished up Two Towers. Not very far into that one, just like an hour or two into that one. Where am I at in that one? We're back with Frodo and Sam. No, we're with Pippin. Pippin and Gandalf. They're in Minas Tirith, and Pippin kind of pledged himself to the Lord of Gondor, and that's kind of where we are there. So I'm working on that one. And then I started this one just earlier today. I didn't get far into it, but this one's on my spooky season TBR. This is Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. This is an epic tale of medieval horror. Like I said, didn't get far into it, so don't have a ton to say about this one. I'm just 20 pages into it. Excuse me. But this one feels like it's going to be, you know, it's dealing with the plague, the Black Death, but also feels like it's going to have some maybe like religious, supernatural things going on. Because like part one is talking about all the angels who fell from heaven, and them kind of, it says, you know, God has turned his back on mankind. So the angels are kind of testing, the fallen angels are kind of testing, you know, what can I do to man and not have the wrath of God come down? I'm going to do this, make them all go hungry. And then I'm going to do this and have them fight wars. And then I'm going to do this and send this plague to them. And the little girl at the beginning, the first chapter, says she sees an angel. It was talking to her. So kind of some supernatural religious things going on with, I'm assuming, some very dark medieval horror with the Black Plague and stuff like that. I'm looking forward to it. I feel like this one's not going to take very long. It is like 400 pages, but the font in here is quite gigantic. So I feel like this is not going to take as long as it normally would for a 400 plus page book. But started this one earlier today, Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. This is on my stack for books for spooky season, my spooky season TBR. Hoping to knock that one out pretty quick, because Educated, while it was really good, it did take me a while. It was a kind of a difficult read. You know, I feel like I've read more triggering, I don't really get triggered, but triggering things, you know, in horror and stuff. But knowing all that really took place to her, really happened to her, I guess it was a bit, I had to take more breaks with that one, I guess you could say. It was a bit tougher to get through than, you know, your average, you know, fictional horror book with all the slashers and stuff, because that one was real. Anyway, I'm starting to ramble now. I don't think I have anything else to talk about. I think that's it. So I'm going to be continuing on with Between Two Fires, and hopefully that one goes well, and then roll into spooky season, hoping to get to A few people have asked and said they want to read The Stand when I start it, so I'm going to try to start that at the beginning of October. So around beginning of October is when I'm going to be starting The Stand by Stephen King. So yeah, if you wanted to read along with me, that's when I'm going to be starting it. But of course, I'll let you know for sure when I get to it. But other than that, I'm rambling, I'm tired, I'm hungry. There's kids out there yelling. I don't think you can hear them, but I can hear them. So we're going to wrap this up. But let me know down in the comments. I want to hear from you what you have been reading. But other than that, that's all I've got for you guys today. So appreciate you hanging out, spend your time with me. Again, my name is Brad.